Bowman. This is Tyrone Bowman. Tonight, I found an article in the San Francisco Chronicle, and it's entitled No More Excuses. Gavin Newsom directs California cities to clear homeless encampments. So let's talk about this on tonight. This article was written by Sophia Wailag and Kevin Fagan. So let's give credit to them. Now let's get down to this article. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, California Governor Gavin Newsom is pushing California cities to more aggressively clear homeless encampments in the wake of a U.S. Supreme Court ruling freeing cities from restrictions on doing so. On Thursday morning, he issued an executive order directing state agencies and urging local governments to adopt policies to identify dangerous encampments and clear them after giving residents 2 days' notice. The move comes as California's challenges, including its homelessness crisis, are under the microscope nationally because Democrats are poised to nominate Vice President Kamala Harris as their presidential candidate. Conservatives are already seizing on Harris's long track record as an elected official in the Golden State, arguing she bears responsibility for California's problems. California state government has dealt with the proliferation of tenants along state highways for years. Newsom previously detailed this frustration to the Chronicle about how his local officials' hands were tied because courts had limited government's ability to clear homeless encampments, arguing that punishing people for sleeping outside amounted to unfair punishment. That dynamic shifted last month when the Supreme Court ruled that government officials have broad power to evict people from street encampments and confiscate their property. Wow, that doesn't sound like Marxism and communism there. That's what Lenin and Stalin and Mussolini did during their tyrannical dictatorial regimes. Newsom's executive order directs state agencies to adopt policies in line with those already in place at the California Department of Transportation, which oversees state highway property and has long grappled with encampments. Those policies include giving people 48 hours notice to evacuate before their encampments are cleared, except in exigent circumstances. Contacting service organizations to connect with people living in the encampment and collecting, labeling, and storing property cleared from the site for at least 60 days. This executive order directs state agencies to move urgently to address dangerous encampments while supporting and assisting the individuals living in them. Newsom wrote, noting that although his administration has directed $24 billion toward addressing homelessness since he took office in 2019, the problem is still acute. Newsom's directive will be carried out on state properties such as parklands. He can't order cities and countries or counties to adopt the policies, but his executive order encourages them to do so. There are simply no more excuses, he wrote in a statement. It's time for everyone to do their part. San Francisco Mayor London Breed announced shortly after the Supreme Court ruling that she intended to escalate homeless sweep as a result. Jeff Creighton, her spokesperson, said Newsom is calling for what SF is already doing. He said that city expects an injunction that had restricted some of the city's encampment work to be officially lifted as soon as Monday. As soon as Monday. Let me read that again. Our encampment teams have been going out and will continue to go out to bring people indoors and to clean and clear encampments, Creighton said. We have been training our workforce to be ready once the court officially lifts the injunctions. Harold Jeffrey, Oakland's acting homelessness administrator, said Newsom's orders won't meaningfully affect what the city is already doing, which is leaning harder into clearing camps while offering shelter and services. The Supreme Court ruling gave us a little more leeway, he said. but one of the main goals of any sweep will be on safety, like clearing tents away from buildings and power poles to reduce fire danger, he said. Our emphasis is on getting people into housing, getting them help, he said. Santa Clara County and the city of San Jose are also crafting plans to more aggressively compel people to accept shelter and services. But a recent proposal to criminalize camping along local waterways met such resistance that officials are taking a cautious approach. The Santa Clara Valley Water District this month delayed implementing a policy that would impose $500 fines or up to 30 days in jail or anyone setting up an encampment along its waterways after getting intensive public pushback until we actually permanently get those folks off the streets and into housing. Complaints and sweeps are not going to end, said Ray Bramson, Chief Operating Officer of Destination Home, Santa Clara County's leading nonprofit addressing homelessness. It's not ramping up punitive approaches and moving people around that will solve this. The Bay Area Council, a business-oriented nonprofit, applauded Newsom for his decisive action. California cities must now rise to meet this moment, to grab this opportunity and provide the shelter and housing that can end our long homeless nightmare and restore a sense of order and civility to our streets, sidewalks, and other public spaces, Council President Jim Wonderman said in a statement. This is not about criminalizing the unhoused. It's about meeting our responsibility to help our neighbors. The Supreme Court ruling issued last month determined that enforcing laws regulating camping on public property does not constitute cruel and unusual punishment, prohibited by the Eighth Amendment to the Constitution. The court's 6 conservative justices sided in the majority, while the 3 liberal justices dissented. The court's majority argued that not only do most American cities, including those in the Bay Area, already have anti-urban camping laws, but no more than 41% of unhoused people really accept services or shelter when offered them during sweeps. The ruling quoted Breed saying her city uses anti-camper laws not to criminalize homelessness, but as one important tool to encourage people to accept services and ensure safe and accessible sidewalks and public spaces. Some suggest that homelessness may be the defining public health and safety crisis in the western United States today. Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote for the majority. The causes are varied and complex, the appropriate public policy response perhaps no less so. What does all that jargon mean? It simply means they don't have a plan to help our homeless brothers and sisters to get back into a civil living. You know what? Everybody has a story, including myself. We all have a story. We've all been through tight circumstances and situations in our lives. We've all encountered things sometimes we didn't like to encounter, but we got to do it with civility. In dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor said, Grants Pass, or the city where the case originated, was punishing people for their status of homelessness. Sleep is a biological necessary, not a crime, wrote Sotomayor, joined by the other 2 liberal justices, Elena Kagan and Kenji Brown Jackson. For some people, sleeping outside is their only option. The city of Grass Pass jails and fines those people for sleeping anywhere in public at any time, including in their cars, if they use as little as a blanket to keep warm or a roll-up shirt as a pillow. For people with no access to shelter, that punishes them for being homeless. That is unconscionable and unconstitutional. For longtime advocates of homeless people, the court ruling and attendant efforts by cities to clean harder on sweep changes little. What it does is take off the gloves and validates what communities have been doing anyway, said Paul Boutin, head of the Western Regional Advocacy Project. There's no more pretense now that we're giving them referrals. It's just full speed ahead. I'm Tyrone Bowman. Never surrender. Never quit.